So welcome to Idea to IPO. My name is Rob. I've been organizing Idea to IPO since February 1st, 2010. At that time, we had no members and no events on our calendar. At this stage, we have over 800,000 members among all of the groups all around the world. We've organized, promoted, and produced over 4,500 events. By any standard, by any measure, we're the most active, most prolific startup event organization in the history of Silicon Valley, bar none. Thank you. Thanks for your support. We hold venture capital panels, legal workshops, networking events, and more. We hold events every day of the week. Check out our schedule at ideatoipo.com. Our mission is to support entrepreneurs, build community, provide value in the Silicon Valley startup ecosystem. To that end, we provide content that is practical, actionable, and relevant. Stuff you can actually use to succeed as entrepreneurs. We believe in building community because Silicon Valley is a global aspirational ecosystem that attracts people from all over the world who come here to do great things. Who here is not originally from Silicon Valley or the greater San Francisco Bay Area? Who here was born and raised in Silicon Valley or the greater San Francisco Bay Area? 6 of you. Well, welcome, natives. So whether you were born and raised here or just arrived last night, it's important for us to provide multiple channels for you to meet people, build relationships, and grow your network. With regard to value, it's important that we provide value at each and every one of our events. Much value for your money, which is important though, because we know many entrepreneurs are struggling financially. So we make sure our events are free or affordable. And if you cannot afford to cover charge for whatever reason, come talk to me and we've worked something out. And at most of our speaker events, we make sure that we provide a delicious buffet. Is that a delicious buffet? Is that a delicious buffet? Well, I want to thank A&L Sherman for sponsoring at Delicious Cafe. So let's hear it for A&L Sherman. Applause. More importantly, at each and every one of our events, we want to make sure that we provide value for your time, which is your most valuable resource. Anyone here getting any younger? Besides this young man and the rest of our panel? So when you invest your valuable time to come to our events, we want to make sure that you maximize your ROI. We have many partners that help us do what we do. Law firms, venture capital firms, angel investor groups, incubators, accelerators, colleges, universities, and lots of other players in the Silicon Valley startup ecosystem. Tonight, once again, we're grateful to A&O Sherman for hosting us at this beautiful venue. Is this a beautiful venue? Is this a beautiful venue? So let's hear it for Rachel and A&O Sherman. Applause.
And thank you everybody for being here. It's great to see such a fantastic turnout and a great panel. My name is Rachel Kim. I am a senior associate here at A&O Sherman. I'm going to tell you 30 seconds about our firm. So we were officially formed on May 1st, 2024. And no, we are not a startup, but we are the result of a pretty significant merger of 2 historic law firms, Allen and Overy and Sherman and Sterling. We recently completed our merger and celebrated our first day as the combined firm A&O Sherman on the 1st of this month. We are a full-service law firm, and with nearly 4,000 lawyers across 40 offices in 40 countries, we are the 3rd largest law firm in the world. I am part of the capital markets and emerging growth and venture capital practice. I deal with companies from formation all the way through the life cycle of that company, from friends and family, seed, angel, venture capital, M&A, IPOs, and everything in between. If anyone has any questions about our firm or our practice or what we do or how we can be of help to you, please feel free to find me or any of our colleagues who are also here with us tonight to learn more about us. Once again, thank you all for coming. Welcome. Back over to you, Rob.
Some of our other partners are here tonight. I would also like to have them say a few words. Let's hear for Sudha and Abzina. Applause.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Rob. My name is Sudha Krishnan. I am Vice President for Business Development for Absina. If you are a startup that is using AI, ML to bring the next generation therapeutic for cancer, come talk to me. If you are a VC that's working with such companies, come talk to me. So this is what we do. If you have seed money, right? You don't have anything beyond that. You have an idea, you have seed money. We build out the data package. We will do all the early development work for you, and we will make your idea attractive enough for the next stage. So we'll develop that, we'll take that and get more money, come back to us, right? So at the end of the day, with our scientific expertise from A to Z, from early development all the way to making that drug that goes into a human being. So we can make an antibody, we can make a small molecule that's tied to an antibody to make a precision medicine and manufacture it so that you get commercial approval. So again, if you are any of those people with an idea, it's with seed funding, but beyond that, don't know what to do, come back to me because I have the gene to IND program, which I could customize for you. That's it. Very nice to be here. Thank you. Eat it.
Next up, we have David from Flagstar Bank. Applause.
All right, I'll keep it short and sweet. My name is David Lewis, Relationship Manager at Flagstar Bank. We offer concierge and private banking services to startups, their founders, venture private equity, and the partners that run. Do you want to learn more about our services and take advantage of our current promo, which is offering 5.55% APY? Come stop by, talk to me or my colleague Tony, and we're happy to discuss further. Thank you.
So our local mission is to support entrepreneurs here in Silicon Valley. The global mission was to democratize entrepreneurship and innovation all around the world. To that end, we maintain a robust YouTube channel, youtube.com/idea to IPO. Go check it out. We have tons of videos there. And this rich, valuable content is available on demand, anytime, anywhere, totally free of charge. One of our partners in this endeavor is Michael Payne, one of the top professional videographers in Silicon Valley. So let's hear from Michael. Applause.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Michael Payne. I help companies and individuals tell their story via video and photography. If I can help any of you, even with this, if it's just for some advice, since you're a friend of Rob's, I'm happy to give you some of my time. Thank you.
So here's the schedule for the rest of the evening. Our panel will hold a brilliant, compelling, dynamic, entertaining, and scintillating discussion. Right? Sure. Oh, yeah. That'll take us to 8 p.m. At that point, we'll open it up to questions from the audience. We'll wrap up the program at 8:30 p.m. Stick around for a few minutes, network, socialize, connect. As a courtesy to A&O Chairman, we need to leave the building by 9 p.m. However, there is an after party. More on that later. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to our distinguished moderator, Helen Christakos, Parker at Sharon, A&O Sharon. So let's hear for Helen and our panel. Applause.
Thank you, Rob. Welcome, everybody. It's great to see such a great turnout tonight. I want to get started by getting a sense of who you are, who is in the audience. Could you please raise your hand if you're an entrepreneur? Listener. An academic? Investor? Any attorneys in the room? I see a familiar face. Journalists and journalists in the room. Okay, great. Well, next, why don't we get to know our panelists? Could we start? Maybe just go down the line and work. Could each of you please get a little bit about your background, your journey, how you ended up in AI, and what types of AI you're investing in?
Thanks, Ellen. Excited to be here. My name is David Gerster. I'm a partner at Fusion Fund. We are a seed stage venture firm headquartered in Palo Alto. We invest across 3 broad sector categories: enterprise AI, which is my main focus when I'm here, also healthcare, and what we call industrial tech, what others might call hard tech. We are currently investing our $120 million fund free. Our typical check size might be $1 to $3 million in the priced seed round. That's kind of our median type of deal we like to do. And was I supposed to say something else? I think that about covers it. Go on, Gaussen.
Hi there. Silly story. I'm a partner at Zetaventure Partners. We are named after the zettabyte, a trillion gigabytes. Probably this audience is nerdy enough to know that. And we are, as far as we know, the oldest AI-focused fund. We haven't found an older one. We're 10 years old, at 10 and a half now. And we are focused exclusively on machine learning and AI startups, both AI native applications as well as the infrastructure and tools to build it and deploy and serve them. We are also focused on the seed stage. We back companies as early as inception, up to kind of pre-seed, seed, post-seed, but not Series A. And we're typically writing anything from $500,000 to $4 or $5 million, broad range, and so that's that. I'm Deborah Maggott. I was for many years at IBM in their corporate venture group, and supported the entire software business and some of the verticals in global services and consulting and in hardware, but mostly in software. And AI has been, of course, a very big focus for IBM in the last several years. And before that, it was analytics, and before that, it was big data. So it's a journey, right? And I left IBM last year, and now I'm starting a new seed and A round fund to invest in vertical industries that are truly transformed by AI. And that would include cybersecurity, health and medtech, climate and sustainability, mobility, and so forth. And so we are just starting this journey now, and so come to me later in the funding in that series. Hi, everybody.
Hello. My name is Ekta Dang. I'm the CEO of UFirst Capital. We've been operating for the last 5 years. So both me and my co-founder, we were investing through Intel Corporation's venture arm, Intel Capital, before that. And between us, we covered enterprise software areas like cybersecurity, IoT, big data, and AI back then. So we've been investing in applications of AI when we were at Intel, and then we left Intel in 2019 and started our own initiative, UFirst Capital, through which we make 20 plus investments, all focused around enterprise software. We go across all stages. We've done some seed deals, and we've done some growth stage companies. We've invested in 2 LLM companies and quite a few AI applications as well.
For the people in the back. Okay, so my name is Bill Reichert, and I'm a partner at Pegasus Tech Ventures. Pegasus is a $2 billion plus fund that invests pretty much across almost everything you can think of. I used to say, it's easier to say what we don't invest in. We don't invest in cannabis. But other than that, we invest in life science, material science, IT, hard tech, whatever. Smart buildings, smart factories, smart transportation, smart cars, smart agriculture, smart everything, right? So, I got to push a little bit on Zeta here in terms of Jocelyn saying, you're the oldest AI firm in Silicon Valley?
We haven't found an older one.
Okay, so
I'm not saying nobody invested in AI, but nobody was focused on AI.
So I mean, it just.
I can't say we're the oldest. I can only say I haven't found an old.
Okay, well, and I'm not really going to contradict you. Well, except to say, as it might be, Zell had been around for a while, and I made my first AI investment in 1989, and I thought I was too late. So, I mean, for those of you who might know the history of AI, we've been through many cycles here, but. So I started out as an entrepreneur, actually, and then after my fourth company went public, I got together with Guy Kawasaki and a few other people. We started Garage Technology Ventures, which was arguably the first accelerator or the first seed fund, depending on how you look at it. But in any case, a few years ago, we merged with Pegasus Tech Ventures, which invests in pretty much every stage across pretty much every sector. Check sizes ranging from 100,000 to 25 million. So we're pretty much all over the map. We've made over 260 investments in the last 12 years. So we're pretty prolific, investing all over the world, in North America, Europe, Asia, etc. So it'll be interesting to talk about all the different companies and technologies. Thank you.
Why don't we dive in and ask, what are the one or two most interesting developments you've seen in AI in the past year or two? Ekta, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. I think in the last 1 or 2 years, everybody knows that we've seen a tsunami of activity in AI. I think what is interesting to note is that whether the tsunami was coming, or not, and what was preceding that tsunami and what follows that massacre phenomena that took place. And if you look at the time frame before the LLMs came in, we were kind of heading towards assistants who were providing automation and automation plus solutions. There was personalization happening, but the LLMs came in and introduced what hyper personalization is, taking into account millions of parameters that could be included within a particular model to understand what's happening in terms of the environment, the entire ecosystem around. And with this tsunami, of course, the tsunami brought in sort of a flywheel effect to itself. So we now have a few infrastructure plays through these LLMs, and there are a handful of these, some private and some open source. But, they're countable because it's so capital intensive to A, build an LLM, and B, train an LLM. So that limits the number of players in this ecosystem to a few countable ones, which can be counted on our hands. With this comes the new flywheel effect that they have introduced on the applications that are based on these LLMs. So the next wave of companies in AI would be how best prompt engineering is being used to train these LLMs for some verticalized solutions, and niche opportunities that are introduced through these LLMs, as also how to kind of train these or you monitor these beasts to stay focused within the enterprise. So there is this entire RAG approach of limiting these LLMs and training them on enterprise data that is limited within the walled gardens of a particular enterprise, and train them on relevant information coming across different data sources within the enterprise. The next wave of companies is verticalized applications, walled gardens created within LLMs, so that the retrieval of the data is very targeted, very focused, and very meaningful and relevant to those particular enterprises, and there are less hallucinations introduced by these models.
David, what about you? What do you think?
Yes, so it's interesting to think about, if you think back to late 22 when ChatGPT first launched, everyone noticed that, hey, this thing makes stuff up all the time. And I think you fast forward to today, people understand that using an LLM as a system unto itself, right? Probably a bad idea. We're going to have kind of a bad time. And so, as was mentioned, things like pairing a large language model with a search engine, right? What we call RAG, retrieval augmented generation. That is a great way to ground a large language model in a collection of facts, so it doesn't just make stuff up, right? And it's interesting. Another big advancement that we saw, I think starting around Q1, was the advancement of larger context windows. So just last week, Google launched Gemini Advanced, which under the hood is Gemini 1.5 Pro, with a million token context window. That means you can you can upload an ungodly large document to it, and it will it will ground itself in that document. It'll give you very accurate answers. They had this really interesting demo where they uploaded like the 300,000 word transcript of like the Apollo moon landing, and were able to get like, very specific. They were able to find like 3 humorous incidents from within, this like enormous document. Now there's this kind of debate going on. So now we graduated beyond like, okay, these things hallucinate, right? We graduated to, oh, okay, these things should be used as components in like the larger system. It keeps it grounded somehow. So now you have this whole debate of RAG versus context window. And the idea is like, why do you need to hook this thing up to an information retrieval system if you can just upload like basically a million words of text, right? And so there's been a lot of back and forth. I think it's a bit of an illusory, it's a bit illusory. I think you're going to need both ultimately, right? We're actually investors in a company called Vectara that does RAG, right? They made it really easy to basically take your enterprise documents and get the entire stat on top of it with a large language model at the top. And they do it in a way that avoids hallucinations. They call it rounded generation, right? But the big arc, I think, is that if you think back to late 22, people are like kind of expecting to use these things just as like search engines unto themselves or something, or as systems unto themselves. It feels like we have thankfully moved far beyond that a year, and that's it.
That's really interesting. We at A&O Sherman have actually developed our own. We have a development team in-house, and we developed something called Contract Matrix, which is a similar service offering. I won't take up time talking about it here. Happy to talk about it with anyone offline who's interested. But essentially, we use it in practice. We also license it to our clients. And it's very useful for things like due diligence, right? When you're buying or selling a company, it processes all directs very efficiently, allows us to do diligence very efficiently for our clients.
Just a personal anecdote, my wife wrote a 100,000 word novel. She was having trouble writing the cover letter, like pitching it to publishers. I was like, well, just upload it to Gemini. She's, what? How did this thing, like, it took 20 seconds and it like spat out the cover letter.
So copywriting that. Do you want to go down that road? Jocelyn, let's go to you. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, if you give the 1 to 2 year time span, then obviously the rise of the kind of the rise of large language models, crossing the chasm with the public is undoubtedly the, kind of Great Wall of China visible from space event of those 2 years. But I don't want to be the sort of third person rehashing the same thing. So if I sort of move down the list, I think, for me, one that has loomed really, really large is that one of the very first applications of these large models to take off in a big way is code generation. His transforming the work of software engineers. And as a lifelong software engineer before I strayed into venture, it is really, I think, quite radical. I don't know how many people in this room write code, but I truly think that in 10 years, the way people create software or create technology products will resemble coding in Python as much as coding in Python resembles coding with punch cards. And so, today's programming languages are like a massively grand compromise between what machines can understand, which is machine language, and what humans can understand, which is natural language. And that compromise is going to be gone very soon. And so, we're seeing this today with, tap complete, the equivalent of Grammarly for coding. But how far can we take it? And it's everything from products that can do code review to products that can find sort of static analysis supercharged and finding bugs or security issues and like the things that have made it hard to build products are just rapidly getting massively easier. And what's that going to do like to a world where I think that the demand for new software, new products, new concepts is infinite and has only been throttled by the limited supply of people who have climbed that learning curve of programming, that barrier to entry to become product builders. And if that barrier to entry falls flat, if the capacity to build is democratized, I cannot imagine how transformative that's going to be for not just our industry, but for society.
I think that brings us to another really interesting question is, how is AI going to disrupt the workforce? How is it going to change the workforce going forward? Deborah and Bill, maybe Deborah first and then Bill. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's interesting. People do their work in a particular way, and they're used to doing it in a particular way. And the idea, I think, that they could use AI to make it simpler or faster or more efficient is something that some people are very excited about, like could develop. I totally agree with what you said. And then some people are just scared by it. And if you think about professors and college students as a form of worker, there are all kinds of issues around not just copyright and intellectual property, but the thinking that goes into things and that people value in their work output. And so if you're an employer and your employees are supposed to be, I used to be in strategy, so I'll use myself as an example. So if I'm a strategist at IBM, which I was, and I'm looking ahead and I'm looking at the trends in AI or whatever, and I produce a report and I pitch it to the senior vice presidents and I tell them this is what I believe. Is it different if AI produced half of that report or 2/3 of that report? And do I get the same accolades from my audience and the same belief in it from my audience? So I think and we'll talk about this more later, I'm sure, but the trust in the worker's output is affected by what the worker does.
So I think, probably we would have pretty close to a consensus here with some outliers that the anxiety aspect of AI sort of destroying knowledge workers' jobs is probably overblown. I don't know, maybe my panelists disagree with it, but so I think it's way overblown. And my son is a coder, my daughter is a graphic artist, and they're loving it. They're just loving it, right? And it's making them more productive. They're getting
Sectors of how to, I think it depends on what your job is.
well, okay, all right. I mean,
But those are two highly affected sectors.
yeah, I mean, that's what we just talked about. And, now journalists have already gotten wiped off the face of the earth, and that wasn't an AI issue, right?
Before.
So I think we overblow this sort of AI is the guilty party here, as opposed to, all of these other technology trends that are swamping us. And I think, for most of us in the room, I think the way in which your job has been transformed the most over the last 10 years is just the sheer volume that now these technologies with, you got Slack here and you got texting here and you've got email there and you've got whatever, WhatsApp there. The sheer volume that technology enables us to create and flood each other with, and our inability to sort our way through it in spite of all these supposed AI tools that will help us sort our way through it and get to, sort of be more productive. So I think sort of the irony of these AI tools is that, yes, in any given particular application, it seems like there's a huge productivity increase. But in terms of implementing these tools across the workflow, it's, there's all these complications that have happened. The same way we see, with, internet marketing. There's an infinite number of tools there for creating campaigns, for monitoring campaigns, for tracking, for CRM tools, et cetera, et cetera. Now we have a whole phalanx of jobs out there that have been created to help us run marketing campaigns in spite of the fact that we have this massive technology improvement around these marketing campaigns. So the other point, if I can just make this point, back in the first question, I think possibly one of the biggest single transformations the last 2 years has had on our industry is that this, sort of explosion around LLM, applications has just sucked the oxygen out of all the other AI applications, not to mention other startups. And if you think about it, the whole LLM technology, I mean, it's amazing, it's fascinating, it does all these magical things, but it's pretty narrow. It's a pretty narrow technology. I mean, if you really want to create a more efficient factory, okay, yeah, having some LLM in there somewhere is going to be helpful, but that's not what's going to make the difference. I mean, we have all these other technologies that are, some are, machine vision, machine learning. There's all sorts of different AI technologies that actually, I think, have even bigger, they have more value, maybe not as big an impact. And maybe that's a distinction.
I'll just add one more small thing, which is I agree with you.
Oh, Dred, that's something we're going to fight.
No, hey, you and me, really? So the LLMs, I think, have just stuck this stuff in front of people's faces and made them either excited or scared. I view AI as the way I viewed the internet or mobile, as in mobile phones, not cars, when IBM had an internet division and then had a mobile division. You don't think of it that way. It's just part of your life. AI is in so many things now, you don't even realize it and you don't need to. And I think that's where we're getting to, and I think that's a good thing.
So with all of these very interesting developments in AI, how do you decide what you want to invest in? Excellent. Let me start with you.
Absolutely. And the answer is that yes, like I think a lot of people, the LLMs were very exciting to us purely because both me and my co-founder, we come from the chip world. We understand what capital intensive businesses are and what differentiates those businesses. So once these companies, these LLM companies, have created their platforms, so to answer your question, LLM is a space definitely that excited us, and we have made investments in 2 of the top 5 or 6 LLM companies that we will be announcing soon. And then, just like, he said, I think one of our panelists said that there are verticalized applications of LLMs around search. That is an area that excites us a lot. And we will soon be announcing our $10 million announcement in one of the search, most prominent search company that is based on LLMs. And that has also created a lot of excitement in the market. I can't take the name right now, it's too early, but we are now, so after having invested in 2 of the main LLM companies, we're now coming towards applications, and those are exciting to us. Search being the first excitement, because there's a very crude way of explaining why search excites us. Just like you talked about Vectara, this company is similar to Vectara, and the reason why search excites us is that if a student walks into the library, the previous versions of machine learning, AI capabilities would point the student to the right aisles in the library. This search company is not just doing that, not even pointing the student to the right books, but and not even opening the right page of the book, but summarizing what the student needs across the most relevant books and creating a succinct summary right at the face of the student. So that, I think, is immensely powerful. And it's not just I think it's based on a lot of customers of that company that we talked to, including a lot of academicians actually, who are using those search platforms day in, day out in their research. So regardless of the geography, we believe we'll find many such students who will be excited that what was previously being offered to them was a pointer to the aisle in the library, and now it's a succinct summary across the most relevant books on the question that student has. So
Act, I got to interrupt here. When was the last time a student walked into a library?
to do that. Even the digital library that we are so excited about, Google, our Google libraries, Google is the library that I'm referring to right now. And do a search on Google, it points you and gives you the cables.
I'm sorry. Okay.
David, what about you?
So very broadly, Fusion Fund seeks out companies that are solving painful problems in large markets using foundational technology. And I realize that's an almost absurdly broad description, but I think the point is it's not about having a hammer and looking for a nail, right? It's about actually investing in a business, investing in a visionary founder who is going to fix the broken way that something is done, right? And nail that customer experience. And so, I mean, thinking about AI and, getting back to the whole issue of disruption, I think our thesis there is that ultimately AI, and, is this large language models or something else we're going to call AI, or is it, are we talking about like deep learning or whatever it is, right? We'll just say AI. It's ultimately going to liberate humanity from entire categories of drudgery, right? And I think we view that as a good thing. And I do think there probably will be some disruptions along the way, especially in what we tend to think of as white-collar jobs where you have information workers. Not lawyers, though. Definitely not lawyers. And so, but the end result is going to be to free up the humans to do more creative things, to use their higher-level mental faculties, to do the things that the humans actually need to do. So, I do think in the long run, basically the pie gets big for everyone.
I want to give everyone the chance to answer this one because I think it's probably, we've got mostly entrepreneurs in the audience. Jocelyn, would you want to go next?
Sure thing. So I'd echo, I think adjusters are, maybe we're not like hammers looking for nails, but we're certainly like drunks looking under lamp posts. Like used to say, I have a whole bunch of theses about kinds of companies I'm interested and excited about, but those are just the lampposts I'm looking under for keys. The keys might be anywhere, including in the darkness. And so the thing I love best about my job is I take a meeting with an entrepreneur and they turn on a new light. So I just because there's sort of ideas I'm cooking on and maybe have a prepared mind, I'm more than excited to hear about things that are outside my pulse of light and expand what I thought of. I think with that said, I'm really excited about applications of AI. I think the foundation models are there. Like in the last 6 weeks, every major foundation model provider has shipped a major update. Like I don't think the world has over 350 foundation models now. I don't think it needs more. I think that they're great and they're competing with each other, and that's going to be phenomenal for everybody who builds applications on top of them. And yet, for most of us, like most of the things that AI could help us with, we are not being helped yet. Like ChatGPT is just not that useful an interface, and so we're just sitting here buying, doing stuff laboriously that AI today could solve for us if someone just hooked up the damn workflow of the last mile. So as a consumer, those are the products I really want. As an investor, what I'm looking for are founders who are category creators. I think it's quite difficult to do category disruption with AI, to be honest. I think it's quite different from SaaS, where newcomers had some profound advantages over incumbents because SaaS was disruptive to the technology stack. AI is not. It's very easy for adopt. Incumbents may be slow to adopt AI. It may take them a year or two. A startup might get to market faster, but if you're operating fundamentally in the roadmap, a roadmap owned by an incumbent with a lot of distribution power, then you're just sort of like, waiting for, you're just kind of taking a climb fall. But what I think is really exciting about AI is not that we can make current products 10% smarter or easier to use. What's exciting about AI is we can go solve problems that have been resistant to being solved by technology, where humans are stuck doing it manually. And what AI is disruptive to is not the technology stack like SaaS, it's disruptive to human labor. And so that means we can find the boring, tedious, terrible parts of our jobs, speed them up, and do the creative thinking part much better. And so I think, and so I'm excited about people building applications in spaces that have historically been technology alike, and where the software available was comparatively like generic and not that useful, and where people really didn't have great tools. And you could see, if you were sitting up here within 3 feet, you could see the sparkle in Helen's eyes when she talked about that contract model, right? It is like,
It makes my life so much easier, and I'm so much better for our clients too.
yes. I mean, it's like all this laborious effort goes away. And so, that's still, there's still some genius in designing that product and understanding the pain in sort of figuring out the workflow that will be helpful and not intrusive. Certainly in legal work, these are always going to be products sold to lawyers because lawyers need to be regulated and pass certifications. There may be other worlds where AI can fully automate, but so those kinds of applications I'm excited about. And then I'm also a big infrastructure nerd. I really grew up at a company called VMware and joined it in the early days. And was there when we kind of completely transformed the modern data center and built some of the kind of underpinnings of modern cloud infrastructure. And I see these workloads coming, both the training and the inference workloads. I think they will transform what we need from infrastructure. And so I think the new infrastructure we're going to need for these workloads is very interesting and important. And we're just figuring out what that's going to be because we're only starting to have applications that are reaching scale. And then on the flip side, I'm really excited. IBM coined the term the autonomous data center back in the 1960s, okay? The idea was that the machines should manage the machines. And it wasn't there, but the idea was good. It was a beautiful vision, and it has been unfulfilled for 60 years. And I think in the next 10 years, we'll fulfill it. The machines will manage the machines. And so I'm really excited about that application of the app.
Deborah, do you want to go next and then go?
Well, I love what you started with because I used to, sit down with venture capitalists. My job was to build relationships with people in the industry. And the people would say, well, what are you most interested in? Which categories? What do you want to know about? And I'm like, I would like to be surprised. I would like to know about some things that I didn't even think to ask you about. And so that's what I like to see. I like to see entrepreneurs who come to me and tell me something I didn't imagine. And having said that, I also, as Bill knows and my friend in the audience knows, I have a degree in cognitive psychology. And my first job was at AT&T, and we funded the research at MIT that Minsky and Patrick did, so that ages me. And I did neural networks. And so I wonder about the things that people do that they don't really need to do. So, for example, when blockchain was big, and that didn't really pan out the way we thought it would, but people would sprinkle blockchain dust on their solutions because it was easier to get funded. But they could have just used a federated database, and they didn't really need to use this fancy technology. So I don't want to see any deals where people are sprinkling AI dust on their solutions or wrapping their solution in AI. I want to see solutions where AI is so fundamental that could not have been accomplished without it. And it doesn't need to be an LLM. And by the way, we didn't really talk about my view of trends. I like the whole idea of small language models. There are a lot of advantages to that, which we can get into later. And so I like the idea that you could apply small language models to specific industries, verticalize these things, and get solutions that could not have been done before, where AI is truly transformative. That's what I want to see.
Well, did you already go? I think was a shirt. She was first started with her. Yes.
Okay, good point. Okay. All right. So, yeah. So we have a very, very simple approach. That we just ask the entrepreneur, well, how big is your tail? All right. Sorry. Okay. Interesting. All these guys laughed, and everybody out there was saying, "How big is my tail?" Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, so it's, but I hate to imply that somehow, somehow us core VCs, our lives are difficult. I hate to imply that, but I tell you, this, one of the big challenge we have right now is that all of these amazing new applications that you could build on top of these large language models and other tools, it's now at the point where a couple of high school students over the weekend, they can come up with a new app, right? And so sort of going down the path where Deborah and Jocelyn were going, it's what we're looking for is something that doesn't focus on we've got better technology, but rather focuses on we have the best use of this technology to figure out a way to solve a problem in a novel way that nobody else could easily copy. So, one of the things that every entrepreneur suffers from is when the VC says, okay, what's your defensibility? And if you're in software, you have this problem, right? If you're in software and VC asks you, so what's your defensibility? You can't exactly say we're better coders than anybody else, right? Because, right? And so most entrepreneurs just give up and say, well, eventually but the defensibility you got to have is you've got to have some unfair advantage in your business model somewhere. It could possibly be proprietary technology. Sometimes that is the defensibility, but it could also be something about the domain and your knowledge and your connections and your networks and your partners and sort of other things that we as humans can achieve, that because the technology is a commodity. Right. Rarely, and even in the sort of the hardest technologies we invest in, we invest in chips. That's not easy. It's not easy to invest in chips, but it's still at some level replicable, right? And so what we're looking for, I think very similar to what you guys have said, is this, just phrased a different way, is what have you pulled together sort of over and above and separate from your technology stack that gives you this unbelievable unfair advantage that is going to enable you to deliver something that is 10 times better, not incrementally better, than, what another team, down the street or in middle school can do over the weekend, right? So we, an example, we're looking at a company right now that is integrating a combination of AI technologies and database technologies and accelerated learning technologies to create a very, very narrow sector specific domain. I don't know if I should say it out loud, but in any case, it's a generally well known and domain in industry, but it has just an unbelievable number of elements in this domain, and the taxonomy associated with this domain is not easily understood by most people. And so they brought together this expertise, this incredible domain experience, plus the technology, plus a set of relationships to the table, which separates them from sort of everybody else we've looked at. So that's kind of my advice to entrepreneurs when they're pitching to VCs.
Thank you. What are the key risks for AI? What are the key risks? David, do you start?
Sure. So I'm definitely not an AI doomer. I honestly don't really know what to make of some of the discourse you see on Twitter that AI is going to kill us all or something. I find that a bit far-fetched. We can start with it like figuring out what I wanted to do and then doing it right the first time, right? That would be a nice milestone on the AI path. One of the things that I worry about a little is the code gen aspect of it, right? I think that is potentially letting a new genie out of the bottle. I feel like code gen is going to get way, way better. I think the stuff that's out there isn't even beginning to scratch the surface of what is possible. Google DeepMind actually launched a system called Alpha Geometry in Q1. It combines a large language model with a more traditional symbolic system that is, kind of rigidly focused on the rules of geometry. They also trained the large language model on a ginormous synthetic data set of, generated geometry problems. So it was trained well enough to kind of take the good shortcuts. And so when you combine these two things together, you get a system that can solve geometry problems at above the level of a silver math Olympian and just below the level of a gold math Olympian. Now, it's not a huge cognitive leap to think that you could do something broadly similar for code. Obviously, probably an even more unconstrained solution space you have to deal with. But I think you could apply the same basic principles, and the result would be just something way, way better than what we have today. And so once anyone can just describe in a declarative way, build this thing for me, that's going to be a great productivity boost. There are also going to be miscreants who are using it, for hacking and phishing and who knows what else, right? So that's the somewhat futuristic thing that weighs on my mind a little bit.
Yes. Join David in being sort of equally skeptical about, the ghost tales around the campfire about, AI, it's kind of coming and killing us all. I think there's much more real world and practical things to be scared about with AI in the immediate short term. And they're kind of scary. So to start with, if we use AI to pilot drones and pilot missiles, we're going to have weapons of mass destruction that are much more targeted than nukes, but absolutely have the same destructive capacity that could absolutely make warfare more asymmetric and change the balance of geopolitical power. I think if you have models that can design better drugs, not just discover drugs out there in the kind of landscape of what exists in nature, but design a drug for certain properties, those absolute same models can design chemical and biological weapons. So all of this stuff is super scary and has to be regulated, the same way other kinds of weapons of mass destruction are. And then, only one tier down from that is all the ways that it could be used for harm digitally, whether that is propaganda, disinformation, deepfake, selection interference, to cybersecurity attacks, cyber warfare, you name it. And it's super scary. And, but the genie's not going back in the bottle. So I think this is all stuff that we've just got to, if these are new problems or threats facing the world, then I think as society, we just got to grapple with them. We need governments that can regulate them. We need really smart technical people who go into law and policy, not just into product creation. And then we absolutely need entrepreneurs creating products that will be the defenses against these threats.
I completely agree with you. And the issue for me is that we have a lot of smart people around. We know how to use these things, and criminals can be smart and know how to use these things too, and foreign actors can. So the Iranians can, the Chinese can, the Russians can, anybody who wants to harm you, your water system, your children, the government, the next election, they can do it because they have as much skill and as many tools at their disposal, maybe even more than we do. And when criminals start to use deep fakes, or politicians start to use things like deep fakes, or foreign actors try to influence you, or pretend that your daughter's been kidnapped because it sounds just like her, she knows all about your home, that's terrifying. And I track cybersecurity quite a lot. It's one of the things we'll invest in. And it's just one of these little treadmills who catch up with these people and then they get a step ahead of you. And you catch up with them again and they get a step ahead of you because they have the same skills that you do. And you're always trying to find a way to just stop something bad from happening. And I worry about this a great deal. It could be used for good or for ill, and there are bad people out there.
I agree with all of you. I think the risks are very well laid out already, but the key thing would be governance, and the two pillars around governance, which would be table stakes and should be table stakes, is explainability and observability. So what is going into the models needs to be very, very clearly explainable, and there needs to be government mandated and approved methods for observability around these models. And as soon as they're deviating with the real data being fed to them, there needs to be yellow, orange, red alerts, and those need to be really taken seriously, and so seriously that they should start reflecting in the proxy statements of these companies, so that everybody can look at and see what they were up to and what they have done against these issues or these flags that were raised in the course of the journey.
Yeah, I think just to be a little bit of a contrarian here, just to add some spice, I think probably the most dangerous aspect of AI could be our attempt to regulate. That if if we try to do a GDPR version of AI, can you imagine how it will cripple sort of the advance in technology and leave the criminals free to do whatever they want to do.
I have to completely agree with you.
I mean, it's so and we have a tendency, think about what are the sort of 10 most significant risks to humanity or to our country or to humanity. Some of the things that we're worried about, they're legitimate risks, and absolutely, there are all these bad possible things that can happen. But I wish I could believe that maybe one of the good things, the counter elements of AI, would be for, people who know how to use it, which may exclude the government. I'm not sure. But if people who know how to use it can use it to connect the dots, that will help us sort of get out ahead of, emergency response systems and response to drought and to famine and to floods and to climate change. Maybe AI can, sort of possibly help us get better at being responsive, not just in a policy sense, but, as a society in addressing some of these issues. So I'm gonna pretend that I'm an optimist here.
Well, the good news or bad news, depending on your perspective, is I don't think we're going to have an overarching law of GDPR in the United States. There is a bill.
We do live in hope.
It'll be 51 separate GDPR.
Exactly right. But not 51 different GDPRs. I'd say more like GDPR lights. And, there's a lot of variation in the state laws that we're seeing online, right? The trends are that the common threads are around transparency and bias. So the key legislation right now, the key risks that regulators are seeing for AI is the potential to have biased input, biased output, and biased processing. So that's sort of illegal where we are right now. Yeah. I think we're at time. Yes. So how can everyone contact you if they have questions or want to talk to you? What's the best way to reach all of you?
I am David at fusionfund.com. David at fusionfund.com. Email by far the best way to get in touch with me.
I'm on LinkedIn, and as far as I know, the name Jocelyn Goldfine is globally unique. So if you just copy it off the event invite and plug it into LinkedIn, I am the only one that'll turn up.
I'm on LinkedIn as well, and my email address is in the contact section.
LinkedIn as well as my email, which is ekta@ufirstcapital.com. There U is a letter U only.
And I'm Bill at pegasusventures.com, but I don't hold out much hope for my getting to your email, which is a problem. So I'm looking good. So here's the deal. I'm looking for somebody who could build an app that will actually do a decent job of clarifying sort of how I can filter through my email. So if you have that app, then the subject line is Bill, I have that app. and then I'll answer your email. Okay, thank you.
Don't check your email now. Well, let's give up for a panel. Boss. So now it's time for audience participation. So if you have a question for our panel, step right up. We're forming a line here. We'll be very efficient about it. This is not a pitch event, so do not deliver a pitch. It's clearly the size pitch. If you deliver a pitch, no pitches. Joe, you have to deal with Joe, our bouncer.
That's Joe. Jocelyn, I like his statement. You love when an entrepreneur turns on a new light. New lights have a long time to actually get to traction in business. I mean, I just saw Vince Cerf last week, when he started it in 1973 with the internet, 84 DARPA came in and 94 finally get reached. Your fund is only 10 years old. How do you reconcile finding this new light within your fund life that you can actually work with?
It's true. We don't fund science projects, or we try not to fund science projects. So we want entrepreneurs to have, but we absolutely. So yeah, I think like venture is a business model that can only back certain kinds of ideas. It's absolutely true. And there are, deep tech firms and R&D grants, and there's other sources of capital for things that need to fit to your time horizon. I don't have a more satisfying answer than that. I think any answer other than that is kind of live. We are looking to back things at inception or seed stage that can exit within 10 to 12 years. That's like, if you don't want that, you don't want venture.
Bill Sauter with Galaxy Ventures. Jocelyn, I thought your comment was interesting about category killers or with category creators, sorry. So, well, sort of the same thing. Because of 60 or so fellow AI investors here or there, I talked to once a month. I'd be old by birth. It's very apparent that the investment thesis is across the map with all of these firms. Some of them are only doing very specific things and this and that. And one of the pieces out there is that LLM is basically, sort of the flying at least common denominator problem to everything. It's sort of trying to pseudo AGI. Now, and you have a situation where recently with one of the DeepGrind does, they claim that they are now achieving 60 to 80% of a performance and results with their SLMs and their MLMs as with the big LLMs. And I think I want to get your comments. What about the consensus that you think we're going to have a world with lots and lots of specialized AI out there focused on doing different things?
I think it'll be solved both. I think there's like an infinite number of problems in the world to solve with technology. Like I'm not a zero-sum mindset person. I think I've born in very Silicon Valley, summer interned at Netscape, launched my career in the .com. But I just fundamentally believe in the power of technology to grow the pie. I don't think there's finite demand for new tech and new ideas. And so I think in particular, in this case, I think markets will follow markets are efficient ultimately in the long term. And so they will find the technology that solves their problem in the optimal way in price and performance. And so there are problems that will be best solved by classic machine learning, by computer vision, and not by, transformers, LLM-based technology at all. There will be others that, can be solved well by LLMs, but can be solved really effectively by small special purpose models. I think for big horizontal applications, special purpose models may make a lot of sense. I think LLMs will always be needed for either new ideas, new prototyping, because we don't bother optimizing something until we've established that it's valuable, or for just long tail problems that are to a niche market for someone to develop a specific model for them. So I think there's a place for all of it. Basically, my mindset is let 1,000 flowers bloom, and some of them will die, but there's room for a lot of flowers in the farm.
Thank you. Anybody else want?
I would just comment that for most enterprise tasks, you probably don't need a model that can pass the bar exam, in every role in that system. And so I do think I would totally echo what Jocelyn just said about small models having a role to play. It'll be interesting to see what happens with open source, right? You would think that open source small models might be good workhorses for these enterprise applications, perhaps orchestrated by some Cadillac model that can pass the bar.
I just want to add here, there's a company we invested in 10 years ago, actually, and the company has been around, for 12 years. And this is a company that ex-Cisco chairman Don Chambers is an investor in as well. And they really nailed their use case in targeting the conversational AI, use of conversational AI NLP for call centers. Now, LLMs have come in the interim. There has been a lot of, options they could have gone for. But the use case and the learnings that came out of really doing a deep dive on the call center business across geographies, across businesses, it's a power that they have, and it's really not so much tied to the infrastructure that they are bringing to the application of that infrastructure. So despite the fact that infrastructures have evolved, there is a Ferrari available now. They are still doing well with their economy car, I guess. And they're still nailing it. They're targeting toward their IPO, and they're doing well on that path.
Thank you.
Just want to expand in that sense of the question, right? Which is the use of generalized application models that can solve general problems, classification, detection, versus the specific problems that require specialized data, specialized domain expertise. And I'm going to think about the hard problems, for instance, protein, folding, pharma, cybersecurity, classification, and threat response that needs to be immediate. It's usually not been yet, those. And a lot of them, these are modes that are protected data by privacy. And those are areas where you're going to have specialized data and expertise that will protect the value of investments. Generalized models that can extend their verticals down into the application, this omni-channel, omnivorous input. Just to the question is, how do you see the differentiation? Because I want to see these areas are going to be protected, but the external models that integrate vertically are going to destroy trillions of dollars in VC investments. Because as the four main, here's a question, and as the four main algorithm developers integrate their stack to consume and apply to specific modes, the rest of the companies will be pushed out from the market.
So, I think we said earlier that there are things that are venture investable.
Yeah.
And there are things that are not. And so, I work for a large corporation, IBM, and I have a very good view of what Microsoft is doing and Salesforce and Google and Facebook and all the other firms that are working in the space on the more generalized foundational models, the LLMs and so forth, that, with billions of, you can think of OpenAI as a young company, but they have billions in investment. I don't want to try to invest in startups that compete with those people because they will lose. The SLMs and what I said before about things that are targeted and transformative in specific problem spaces, those are the things that startups and entrepreneurs will invest in. IBM's not going to invest in that. And so there's room in the world for both sides of that. They're just not the same business.
Yeah, OpenAI is not going to take over the world. I mean, it's it addresses a certain class of problem and not even a particularly broad class of problem. There are so many different tools, and I think what we've been saying before. I mean, right tool for the right job is going to ultimately win, but it's not the technology that ultimately determines the winner. It is the other elements of the business model and the team and the unfair advantage that are developed from other sources that ultimately determine what wins. But if it were about technology, then SAP would no longer be on this planet, right? Oh, okay. Sorry. That's right. I was a data.
My name is Rishi Kumar, and I really enjoyed listening to all of you. And I'm currently working on a book on AI, the opportunities and the adversities of AI. And I heard from Bill where he said that the most dangerous thing would be for government to regulate AI. And on the other hand, I hear Elizabeth Warren talking about the evils of AI. There's a little bit of a dichotomy. So I would love to hear from Bill a little bit, if you can elaborate on that. Should AI be harnessed or channeled at all, or should we leave it alone? Or singularity is a problem. So how do you really make sure that it doesn't go wayward?
So I think, again, it's not the technology. It's that the reason deep fakes and all this stuff happens and is a threat is not because of the ability to create a deep fake. It's because of the ability to represent that to represent you're something other than who you are. And so it's the anonymity, it's the lack of identity in our systems. It's the lack of confirmed identity in her systems, I think, that is the real problem, right? I mean, so if we know for a fact, the way the financial system works, know your customer, right? But the way the rest of us work, we get all of this flood of stuff that we have no idea, who that person is, who is pushing that out. And if we had a better, and so this goes back to the whole battle over the social media systems and blah, blah, blah. But LinkedIn finally realized they had to have an authorized identity system. There had to be an identity proof system. Facebook, the only reason Facebook won at the beginning was because you knew the person at the other end was who they said they were. Because you had to have a .edu address. And you can't spoof or maybe you can now, but you could back then, you couldn't spoof a .edu address. So you knew that person was who that person said they were. But now, we had no idea who these people are who are promulgating this stuff. If the social media companies, if we as a society said, look, unless you prove that you are who you are, and I know who you are, then you're not allowed, through my particular gate. But again, then the government's going to get in, and I don't know how they're going to do that. I don't know how that's going to happen. But I don't think it's the AI. I don't think it's the AI's fault. Just one question now.
So we got into the weeds, but can't AI regulate itself, right?
That was.
There's actually an answer to that Sam Altman himself found. And this is his other company called WorldCoin. And it's got a crypto.
Yeah, so you're right. It is a tokenization of identity. It is a tokenization of identity. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Justin Hunt. Thank you for the talk today. So OpenAI, LLMs, APIs in the current acronym. When it comes on to this overlay, as a founder and or my fellow founders try to overlay this platform, whatever we're trying to do, there's this monopoly effect that we see coming. All the cash flows in our business being tied to OpenAI. How do you foresee the marketplace responding to this and opportunities in regard to that?
I want to jump on this one. So it's incredibly expensive to build a large language model. So it's not the right idea to be like, oh, I'm not going to share my unit economics with them. I'm going to build my own in-house because that will cost you far more than you can ever monetize. So on the plus side, OpenAI is not a monopoly, is at worst an oligopoly. We have really excellent and competitive alternatives. GPT-4 is the best today for a minute, but who knows whether Gemini or Claude or Llama 3, which still haven't shipped the large version, only the small and medium versions, and as soon as it ships large, they won't ship large until it surpasses GPT-4, and that will be leapfrogged by 5. So the beauty is we have like a nice competitive marketplace, which means all these wonderful multi-billion-dollar businesses are competing the hell out of each other to deliver the very best price performance value for your business. So all you really have to worry about is, do I create a service that has so much value to my end customer that there is a large share of that value that accrues to me and a small amount to OpenAI? And if you look at your unit economics and people will pay you only 10 cents out of which you would spend 9 cents on OpenAI, then you, my friend, don't have a valuable product. You have a thin wrapper on OpenAI, and that is the market telling you, think harder about its product.
Okay, any other questions?
Did we really scare them all away? Okay, Helen, do you have any more questions?
You got to line you ask for beer.
I think you need to go. Do it, use mic.
Yes, good to ask that it be on mic for the recording. on what? I am Bradley Burke. I represent, well, I had Buy Creation LLC. They're a capital advisory group. No picture. So we
Question. Yeah, he's just saying what his company is.
That's still pitch. Okay.
This is a
It is. Give it that.
So my question is, what are in your opinion, what would you say are the top three parts of AI that's and sectors of the AI that you would onto to see as a high growth sector?
It's not the sector, it's the company. I mean, that's not really right. I mean, sectors grow too, but what we've seen, is we keep on having a Gartner Hype Curve, right? And so we keep on having some emerging technology catch everybody's fancy, and then a vast number of entrepreneurs run in and jump on it. And then a vast number of VCs, and I'm not sure which is the right sequence here, probably it's the VCs, I don't know, but run in and jump on it. And so we have these cycles of irrational exuberance that create fast growth sectors. And so I'm not particularly interested in a fast growth sector. I'm interested in a fast growth company. And so one of the problems with overhyping a sector and having 65 venture-backed companies rush into it is that it makes it really difficult for a good company to be successful. I mean, just because the oxygen gets sucked out of the market. And so that's why, I love Jocelyn's metaphor, which is I like entrepreneurs who turn on new lights. I love that, Jocelyn. So everybody, which is to say, I don't want somebody who is the third or the 30th entrepreneur to jump on a high growth sector. And I don't want anybody in the audience here to say, well, hey, the panel said that A and B and C are the best high growth sectors going forward. I'm going to start a company, in A or B or C, right? If you hear that it's a high growth sector, run away, okay? Run away and go find a low growth sector. We're interested in companies that have a TAM of $0 billion, okay? In other words, we're interested in companies that are creating new markets, not companies that are trying to disrupt legacy markets or compete against all the other guys. So don't focus on high growth sectors. Focus on starting a company that's got a clear beachhead opportunity to deliver a compelling value proposition to a target audience that is currently underserved or poorly served.
I completely agree with Bill, but I will tell you one thing. All you have to do is look on the internet and get the statistics on what investment has been in the last year or the last quarter, and you can see that fintech is down, climate tech is up, ag tech is kind of down a little bit, cybersecurity is up. You could just see the statistics sector by sector, quarter by quarter by quarter of how much money was put into those companies, how many deals were done, how many were early stage deals, mid stage, late stage, how many IPOs, how many M&A. It's all on the internet. You don't need us to tell you.
Or what do you do with that data that Rob?
It's a question. I'm answering the question. I use that data myself, but for other purposes.
What would be your approach to engage those companies? Because
What
would be your approach to engaging those companies?
Which companies?
Companies that
You mean if there were such? I'm sorry. Are you asking for tips for entrepreneurs to get investors, or are you asking for tips for investors to get entrepreneurs?
to engage the companies, the entrepreneurs.
So you're asking for what would a VC do to find the kind of entrepreneur that I'm describing? Is that the question, or is it the? Well, what? I know you're trying to avoid telling us what you do. Yeah, so basically, I'm betting that the answer to the question is I'd hire you. Is that the answer to the question?
I would like to know, in your opinion, if you were looking to engage a company, if you were looking to be able to engage with a company to be able, for them to be able to get funding or to fund them,
Right.
what would be your approach?
So, we cast the net broadly to try to and use networks of relationships and data sources and friends and experts to find companies that fit the profiles that rear elections were. Okay. So, yeah.
I think this is like a good question to ask in front of this audience of entrepreneurs, because it's kind of a secret sauce inside baseball question for VC. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs may not appreciate how very much our business model is geared around lead generation. Just like your business, if you're in a B2B business and like you think your job is to build a product, and then like you're trying to get scale and you realize, oh shit, what I'm actually in the business of is lead gen. And until I get lead gen fixed, I'm actually dead in the water. And it turns out that in venture capital, like I think the world outside VC, spends a lot of time picturing investment committee and due diligence and making decisions. But the truth is, the foundation to great returns is being great at sourcing. And so none of us will share our true secret sauce.
I have to tag on to this because I believe that there are, a lot of the top venture funds would, if you take down and drill down and understand how they are kind of approaching the market, it may seem like they are going after the painkillers and not the vitamins, but really, what may seem or appear like a painkiller today may become a vitamin in the next 2 months. The rate at which the technology is kind of changing, pivoting. So honestly, if I have to make the call, I will look for the tenacity of the entrepreneur to keep pivoting till the point he understands that the product he's offering is going to be a painkiller and not a vitamin, and will stay that way at least for a few years till we want to build up this business and scale. So I don't believe that there is a magic pill around eyeing for painkillers and it will stay that way. I think it's eyeing for entrepreneurs and the team and the dynamics around the team that will pivot their idea to the extent that it becomes a painkiller, even if it is not on day one.
Hi, my name is Kendra. I'm from a VC called How Women Invest. I have a very simple question. What are your thoughts on the Scarlett Johansson opening the Ask Me?
My thoughts are good for her. I mean, I really think that like the story's pretty super clear. They asked her for permission. She said no. They did it anyway with like the barest possible fig leaf. I think it's like pretty obvious to anybody who listens that it is her voice. And so yeah, good for her. Good for her. The right thing happened.
Well, the variation on that, by the way, I mean, it's so good for her. A question. So I'm not quite clear exactly where she is going to go with it, but the way I'm understanding it.
Stopped. She just wanted them to stop. It's my understanding.
Right. Now, I mean, so here's, I'd be interested in your point of view on this. She could have sued the hell out, right? She could have sued the hell out.
She sued them to get them to stop. That's all. Right. She threatened to. They just wanted them to stop.
Right. But that was an interesting decision on her part, right? Was all she wanted was for them to stop. We know a lot of people in this world who would have sued for money, right?
Yeah.
Or sued for, right? And so the it's not a 0-1 point. It's this is a spectrum of her response that she came out kind of in a nice middle, I think, right? And is that where you guys are? in terms
No, I think
or you think she should have sued the hell out?
no, I think what she said and then did was crystal clear and firm, and there was no other way for her to address it, given who she is and what she wanted.
Well, okay. But what I'm saying is, given who she is and what she wanted, was in the middle of this 0-1 spectrum.
In the middle of a spectrum of what many different actors or the actresses could have done, sure, but we're not talking about them. We're
I was just wondering, just the nuance of the question was more than just 0-1, I think. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just okay.
It was really just so blatant, right? All she had to do was kind of point in the direction of the kind of blatant act.
That's right. That was not one no question.
And by the way, you didn't make fancy AI regulation for the law to be on her side. Like you have already plenty of clear law about uses of people's likeness. I mean, so there's plenty of existing law to keep, like OpenAI was a violation of commercial law. Right.
We have time for one quick question and some quick answers. Bill?
Hi, to Chris Philippe here. Hopefully this is a correct question, but we danced around this. Do you see any corollaries that are here between what we saw back with the internet revolution back in the early 2000s with massive valuations for the foundational companies? And sorry, into the mic, my bad. And how do we avoid something like Webvan 2.0?
So, I was here in the Valley for Bubble 1. I feel like there's a ton more discipline today. I feel like if you look at some of the really high-profile flameouts, Boo.com comes to mind. What was Boo.com ever going to do? They were like doing 3D modeling and like it barely got their website out and they raised a ton of money. That sort of just flagrant flameout, I don't think we are at that level of hype, right? I think Jocelyn begs to differ. Certainly it's caveat emptor as an investor, as it always is. But you think about all the, you just think about all the amazing advancements we've seen, again, since ChatGPT had seen. Yes, I know it's not all about LLMs, right? But there's so much low-hanging fruit in terms of just basic stuff, like training them better and like fine-tuning them better and like making more tunes to like what the user wants to do. So much low-hanging fruit. So yes, there's plenty of froth, but I mean, compared to Bubble 1, yeah, there's no good in my mind.
I'll just say one quick thing, and that is it's way faster. And investors have been burned and learned some things, and they're more practical, and they actually have more operating backgrounds than investors used to have. Now, I will say, with regards to Webvan and some other notable failures, I want to give a plug. I'm going to give a plug for Sean Jacobson at Norwest Ventures, who has the most delightful website about failed products.
I had one more comment I want to make, which is that in this brave new world of the foundation model, right? It's not the same old narrative of you have the technically clueful upstart who's gonna like just demolish the kind of clueless incumbent, right? A clueful incumbent has just as much access to a foundation model as a startup, and so
Far more access to the customer.
yeah, exactly. And so if all you do is like understand your customer really well and have enough of a clue to like actually implement AI, right? You are not going to be just a city dump for disruption. I feel like that is kind of different this time. It's definitely different this time.
Do you, so if the measure is the percentage of funded companies that succeed,
yeah.
Do you think the percentage of funded companies that succeed in this explosion will be much higher than the percentage of funded companies that right?
No, well done, Bill. No.
I mean, I will say that actually my personal view is that most of the value from foundation models is going to accrue to incumbents. So yes, caveat emptor.
So let's give it up for our panel. Boss. Let's give up for Helen, our awesome moderator. Let's hear for AOL Sherman. Wait, Shearman. Shearman, auto response. Let's hear for that team and the video team. Fair for Joe, our bouncer. For our audience.